Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy.
I'm Jason Gandhi.
I'm Dave Majors.
And we are back today because of football. We're talking about more football today, more NFL, as we are doing the NFC East Preview, as you can tell by the title. So we have a few questions and a record prediction for every team that we're just going to go over, talk about the squads, and give some predictions for the upcoming season. So we'll start off with the Dallas Cowboys. Who had a great year last year, 13-3, but lost in the playoffs to the Green Bay Packers. So first question for the Cowboys. Are the off-the-field issues a big deal? Is it going to affect their play this season? Jason, what do you think?
I say not yet. We don't know what's going to happen with Zeke, but if it's all dependent on that. If they lose Zeke for a few games, Coach Garrett needs to figure this out. But if Zeke does not get suspended, I think then no problem. I mean, obviously nothing's happening. But if he is suspended, those few games he's suspended could be the difference between the playoffs in this loaded division.
The one I have a problem with, obviously, is Zeke. The answer is that it should be a problem, should be a big deal. The details of the altercation would get most people in jail pretty quickly. He could have been investigated for domestic abuse, but he's lucky they didn't do that. So once it gets settled, then they should get over it and be okay, but it's still a big deal in my opinion.
Right now, it's kind of the elephant in the room, the whole Ezekiel Elliott situation, the star of their team last year, rushing for the most yards. He's the guy on the Cowboys. So for him, it's kind of like everyone's waiting. No one knows what's going to happen. If nothing happens, it's not a big deal. You can ignore the whole Lucky Whitehead situation and everything. But obviously, Ezekiel Elliott is a much better player than Lucky Whitehead. We all know about his situation, how he shouldn't have been cut from the team, but he did anyway. So I think if Zeke gets suspended, then those two kind of come together and kind of a lot of locker room issues with all of that. But if Zeke gets suspended, yes. If he doesn't get suspended, then it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah, I think we all are on the agreement that if no one gets suspended, then they're fine. I mean,
Yeah, they can just ignore everything.
But they should.
Yeah. But let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Will the young secondary hold up? The Cowboys had a great season on the defensive side, especially in the secondary last year, which really helped them to get that 13-3 record. So will they be able to continue on that and still be solid on the defensive side this year? A couple losses there. What do you think, Dan?
Nolan Carroll and Orlando Scandrick will get significant playing time at corner, and Byron Jones I think he'll be big at safety. The guys like Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, Marquez White, and Xavier Rhodes will all have to step up as rookies. It will be interesting to see what kind of snaps we see these guys get this year.
Yeah, they lost a lot of veterans in that secondary, including Brandon Carr and J.J. Wilcox. But yeah, like you mentioned, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, Marquez White, and Xavier Woods. The Cowboys went after these guys because they had ball skills. The previous versions of the secondary, the guys I just mentioned, they weren't making plays on the ball and creating turnovers. They would get tackles, they'd get stops, but they wouldn't get turnovers. This aggressiveness of the people they drafted is good, but also aggressive corners can also be burnt if they don't come up with the ball. If they go gamble for a ball, they miss it, touchdown. So that's where it's going to be kind of give or take there. And I think that the secondary will make or break the season for the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys lost three main guys in the secondary this offseason. Morris Claiborne was the 13th best cornerback rated by Pro Football Focus. Brandon Carr was 51st, and J.J. Wilcox was the 24th best safety. They did get some help, though, with Nolan Carroll and then Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis in the draft. And there's a lot of talent, especially coming back. Anthony Brown had a great end to the year last year, a 6th-round pick out of Purdue. And Byron Jones, I think, will be still solid at the safety position. So I think last year was a bit of a fluke. They won't be as good, but still a serviceable secondary, about average.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like flukes and just like being able to repeat what they did last year, I think that goes into Zeke and Dak. I mean, do you think Dak will be able to rise again and keep going, or do you think he'll have a sophomore slump? I think, Dylan, you said that like perfectly about how I don't think it was a fluke, but I don't think he's going to be as good, but they'll still be okay. I mean, is that what you see with Dak, or do you think he's going to stay on the rise?
I think Dak is bound to have a sophomore slump, in my opinion. Bradford, RG3, and Cam Newton were the last three quarterbacks to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. All of them had sophomore slumps. I don't see why Prescott would be different.
Yeah, I was watching some of Dak's tape, and he was far from perfect, but he showed a level of just maturity and pro readiness that I did not expect from from a young quarterback. You see a lot of comparisons online to RG3. I think that is just so false. You look at RG3, and he could not pass out of the pocket. Dak Prescott is so much better out of the pocket, and I mean he's better now, and RG3's been in the league for 5 years now. So RG3 is not a comparison to Prescott. Like I said, Prescott wasn't perfect, but he protected the football and just showed a poise and an understanding that you do not see from quarterbacks this young. I think he declines, but not a slump. He had last year 3,667 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 picks. I think the interceptions go up a little bit, the yards go up, but the touchdowns go down. I think he finishes with 3,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. No reason for a decline too big. Just keep doing what he's doing. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Cowboys had a lot of faith in him after they benched Tony Romo and kind of let him go this offseason. He was just super efficient last year, only 4 interceptions. So I think he comes back and has a bit of a slump in terms of interceptions. I say like 8 or 9 this season, but with more touchdowns and more yards, I think that makes up for the production. He's still a solid quarterback, and he's definitely still a starting quarterback, guy that the Cowboys have a lot of faith on, and that they will build their offense around for years to come. But speaking of the play this season, what do you have the Cowboys record at this season?
I have them at 10-6. I think that they will have a good season, but I think they'll win the NFC East.
Yeah, I think they're the best team in this division, but I do not see them getting back to 13-3 at all. They're on the decline, in my opinion. Losing Ron Leary and Doug Free will be huge on the offensive line. I think they take a step back this year. I have them at 11-5.
I have 11-5 also for the Cowboys. 13-3 I think was a bit of a fluke. They won some close games that they probably shouldn't have, but 11-5 still. This is still a very good football team. As long as the defense can hold up, this offense will be able to put up some points. Let's move on to the Giants, though. Also a solid season last year, and really the defense carried them. After years of a bad defense, they went out in free agency, got some guys, spent over $200 million, and completely turned around their defense. But this offseason, they decided to fix the offense a little bit. After a rough year last year, they went out and got a couple of guys in Brandon Marshall and Evan Ingram. Did they do enough this offseason to fix the offense, Dan?
Well, they ranked 26 in total points last year, so they obviously needed improvement. They got Brandon Marshall and Evan Ingram, as you said. That is really about it. Receivers look a lot better, but the offensive line is still one of the worst in the league, and the running game looks the same after ranking 29th in rushing yards per game last year.
Yeah, they added Brandon Marshall as a receiver. They added Evan Ingram, but they barely touched the offensive line. It's possible the Giants begin the season with the same 5 starters on the line that they had last year. They should be improved, but still limitations, like you said, the below-average running game and a below-average line. I love the Brandon Marshall signing. It's going to fit really well with OBJ. It's a great 1-2 punch. And now you've got, as your lineup, you look at Eli Manning, Paul Perkins, OBJ, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard in the slot, and Evan Ingram. If you get some blocking, that offense is good to go. I just don't know about the defense, if they're going to be able to keep rising like they did last year. I think the offense won't be great, but they have good pieces. But it could be similar to like where you saw the 2011 Dream Team with the Eagles, where they get really hyped up but can't really live up to it. I don't know.
This offseason, the Brandon Marshall and Evan Ingram signings, I love both of them. Not a solid number 2 wide receiver behind OBJ last year. Brandon Marshall brings that. He's a big target too, a lot bigger than OBJ or really anyone else the Giants had. And really no tight end pass catchers last year. A couple of blocking guys Larry Donnell, but Evan Ingram brings more pass catching, and I think he'll give another big weapon to Eli Manning this year. But you guys both mentioned it. The offensive line is still very bad. If they can do anything better than last season at all, this Giants team will be a solid offense. They really can't be worse than last year. A bad down year, but I see that they improve enough to be an above average offense, but definitely nothing special.
I agree.
Let's move on to we'll keep talking about the offseason signings. Brandon Marshall coming over this offseason. We talked about him a little bit, but is he the next Plaxico Burress for the Giants? Kind of a comparison that's been said a lot. Jason, do you think he lives up to that hype?
So I assumed you guys would go with an on-field comparison. I went off the field. You know what Plax did off the field? Brandon Marshall's biggest flaw is his locker room presence. It's been an issue in the past with the Broncos, Dolphins, Bears, and Jets. We have now all heard from all four teams how he was a distraction in the locker room and how he really kind of drove that team apart. So far, I know we're only 2-3 weeks into training camp, whatever, but so far it's been nothing but praise for him in this locker room. Janoris Jenkins said, quote, "For me, he's been cool. He's funny, a nice guy, respectable, and I think he's just enjoying his time here," end quote. Weston Richburg, an offensive lineman, said he's got experience, so he's obviously taking a leader, somebody younger guys can look to and take advice from, end quote. I think that second quote is really where you look at it big time. I think Brandon Marshall really changed what he's done in the past. I think he's having a kind of approach of where, I'm the veteran now. I can't be the immature self I was, and now I think he's taking it under him. I think he's changed where he's going to be more of a veteran leader, and I think this would be very good for the Giants. And so I went off the field. I know you guys probably have on-the-field stuff like Plaxico, but I think off the field wise, they have similar problems, but I think Marshall fixes them with the Giants.
Yeah, I think Marshall, now that he's older, now that he's on a good team, I think he'll start to become more mature, and it's not really his kind of team. Like, he was one of the best players in the Jets last year.
He's probably the best player, to be honest, on the offense.
It's kind of his team on the offensive side. Now you've got other guys, Eli Manning, OBJ, that are better than him and are really in control of the locker room, control of the offense. So I think he's going to have to kind of take a step back and kind of start to be a better guy in the locker room.
Yeah, the only problem is going to be you've got two young receivers in OBJ and Shepard that you cannot have Marshall be toxic on and ruin their career. The Giants are banking on those two being stars.
Yeah, but on speaking of the on-field comparison, I think he's kind of Plaxico light. Brandon Marshall's older than Plaxico was during some of his prime years with the Giants, but he can still make some big catches. He'll be a big red zone threat for the Giants. He really isn't kind of the downfield threat, though, that Plaxico Burress was, and he's not the number one guy because you have OBJ. But I think he can still be not as good as a Plaxico, but still kind of doing the same thing. Big red zone wide receiver target.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall will be a key part of their offense. Now Eli has two very good receivers on his team. I think secondaries will struggle figuring out how to defend them.
All right. So with a kind of up and down team, we saw the offense really good for a few years. The defense was good and the offense was bad last year. Kind of hard to predict with this Giants team. What do you think is really the ceiling and the floor for this team this year, Jason?
Yeah, this team is so hit and miss. You really do not know what you're getting out of them. There is potential for them to go very, very good into the playoffs or miss the playoffs completely. It's so up and down. My ceiling for them is 11-5. Everything goes right. They tie for first and are the wild card. I think the Cowboys will beat them this year anyway. So I think at best they're the wild card at 11-5, and the floor I have them 7-9. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna all come together in 1 year.
I have 11-5 and 8-8. Defense doesn't have a lot of depth, but I still like them, and the offense won't improve that much. They didn't really make that many improvements this offseason.
It's just Marshall and drafting Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I think they'll be about the same, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They do have 5 really tough road games this year. At Dallas, Philly, Tampa Bay, Oakland, and Arizona. But I still believe that they win one of those games and win out the rest and finish 12-4. That's if everything goes right.
Undefeated at home.
I could see it. They have the home schedule is a lot easier than the road
Dallas
schedule.
there. I mean, that's already.
I think they'll split with Dallas and win the home game.
I am splitting with Dallas.
But if the defense really falls apart and doesn't have the same season as they did last year, the offensive line doesn't improve, and Brandon Marshall isn't everything that the Giants hope that he can be, I think they could even drop to 6 or 7 wins this season.
Mm-hmm. Not even 7 and 9. Yeah, I agree. 7 wins, I think, is the floor.
All right. So what is your record for the Giants this year?
I'm at 9 and 7. I think they missed the playoffs. The NFC is too powerful. Like I said in the other ones, I have I think it was the Seahawks as my other wild card, along with the Buccaneers. So those are the 2 wild cards this year. I don't think they make the cut at 9 and 7.
I have them at 10 and 6. Defense only loses one starter from last year, and it was replaced in the second round of the draft. So look for them to have a top 10 defense, but they still didn't make that many improvements on offense. Brandon Marshall's big. The offensive line will struggle.
I say 11 and 5. I see them doing the same thing as last year. The offense, I think, got better. The defense, really a little bit of a fluke last year, finishing as the second best defense, but definitely still good. Still a top 10 defense, and that gets them to an 11 and 5 record.
You like them at top 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're going to decline.
They were
defense.
last year. I don't see.
Yeah, I think they're going to decline this year. I mean, look at the teams they're playing. Dallas, I think, will still have a good year against them. Philly is improved offense. Tampa Bay's offense will ball on them. Oakland's offense and Arizona offense. I mean, that's all just away games that their offense will put up 350, 400 yards on them.
I mean, a lot of those teams don't have good defenses, though, so I think the offense will be able to
I mean,
improve
just defensively. I'm just talking like top 10 defensively. There's 5 games plus Dallas again plus Philly again. That's 7 of your 16 games.
If you don't look at the stats, I'd say the talent level I'd give.
Talent level top 10. Yes. I mean, looking at their schedule, I'm not sure they stay top 10.
Okay. Yeah.
I could see them in the 11 to 18 range.
All right, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles then. So Carson Wentz, rookie year last year, had a great start to the year, but after that kind of fell off. So will he take a big leap this year and lead the Eagles to the playoffs?
You know, Coach Peterson says he expects incremental growth. Wentz completed 63% of his passes for 3,782 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. The Eagles have never had a 4,000-yard passer. I think that's interesting to keep in mind. The Eagles really need out of Wentz is consistency. He had 5 games during his rookie season with a passer rating of over 90, but also he had 5 games with a passer rating under 65. Whether or not Wentz can do the same will, of course, depend in large part on his ability, his instincts, and his work ethic. But, I mean, you've seen this offseason how hard his work ethic is. He took his receivers out to Fargo, North Dakota to get acclimated and all that and just, like, bond with them. So I think that's very big. I know it's something that's been talked about a lot. All of that, I think, is going to depend on his supporting cast. The Eagles have done a much better job putting him in position to succeed in year 2 than they did in year 1. I think he will be the Eagles' first 4,000-yard passer. I think he's going to take a big leap.
Yeah, Wentz will have a fine year with the receiving core improved as Jeffrey was signed to a 1-year deal and Torrey Smith was also picked up. He set the record for the most rookie completions in a season, and I don't see a decline from last year.
Yeah, I like Carson Wentz to take a solid leap this year. It really depends on what you mean by giant leap, though. Does he provide more consistency? I say definitely. He has a lot of new weapons around him, specifically Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey, a good running game with Ryan Matthews, LeGarrette Blount, and Darren Sproles. But he's not going to be any top 10 QB, but I see him getting around 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Still a very solid season from Carson Wentz, I think, in year 2. But the Eagles made some off-season splashes, like we talked about on the offensive side. Torrey Smith, Alshon Jeffrey, LeGarrette Blount. Will these guys be able to pan out and lead the Eagles to the playoffs? Or is this kind of the Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, where everything was hyped up and they flopped?
Yeah, I think that this is different. You look at the 2011 team with Vince Young. This is different. Jeffrey is a proven number 1 receiver, something they didn't have. Torrey Smith's a proven number 3 receiver, even though he might be the 2, still proven. And LeGarrette Blount, a proven lead back. All 3 of those things are proven proven solid players at their position, something they didn't have in Vince Young, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, and Nnamdi Asomugha. They had like that 1 or 2 hot year, and that was their definition of proven. LeGarrette Blount's been successful the last 3-4 years. Jeffrey's been successful in Chicago since he's been there, and Torrey Smith has been. I don't even know about the defense. I mean offensively, and Torrey Smith's been good in Baltimore before he went to San Francisco, but that's quarterback issues. So these guys have shown skill. I think this is different. I think this team shows up.
Yeah, I also like this Eagles team. I think they're still a couple years away from being a Super Bowl contender because of Carson Wentz is still kind of young, but on the offensive side, there's still a few weapons away too. The offensive weapons are getting older, and they might leave soon too. Ryan Matthews is 29, LeGarrette Blount is 30, Darren Sproles is 34, and Alshon Jeffrey might leave next year. So they got to find some new weapons to come around Carson Wentz, but I like where this team is going. I think they'll have a good year this year.
I don't know. I don't see them panning out enough to be a contender in the NFC East. They could give some improvements in some areas, but nothing special. I like the receiving core, but I don't think much else is going to be that great.
Yeah, I think defensively they're not going to be great, but I think offensively I think they're proven for sure, and it's going to help Wentz a lot in his development.
All right, so let's talk about the defense. Will they be good enough to help make a push for the playoffs this year?
I don't know. Looking at their defense, there's no denying the defensive line is its strongest unit. It's anchored by Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. The front four is among the best in the NFL. Timmy Jernigan being thrown into the mix. They also have Derek Barnett, the first-round pick this year. They are both 2 reasons this unit is expected to thrive. Throw in Vinny Curry, Chris Long, and Bo Allen, and this team has tremendous depth. On the back end, Jalen Mills' versatility will help in the secondary, but outside the front four, everything is just average. They had some good picks in Sidney Jones and Rasuel Douglas, but besides those 2 in the cornerback spot, which are already young because they just got drafted, there's not much else there in the Eagles' defense.
Yeah, they finished 12th in points allowed and 13th in yards allowed last year, but I'm not a big fan of the corner position as they allowed quarterbacks to connect on 60% of their throws. There's nothing great at the linebacker either, as they didn't improve in either unit, so I do not see them making a playoff run.
You know what? I like this defense. Fletcher Cox is great. They brought over Timmy Jernigan from Baltimore. And you guys are sleeping on the linebackers a little bit. Michael Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, and Brandon Graham are all solid linebackers.
They're average. I wouldn't call them good.
I mean, together, those are 4 guys. Not a lot of teams have 4 linebackers all that good.
Yeah, I just I don't think it's going to be. I mean, the front four is obviously where they make their money, and everything else is just okay.
But the cornerbacks, like you guys said, are going to struggle too. But they did address this defense in the draft and were in the top half last year. So I don't see any reason why they should get any worse.
I mean, if it's going to be worse, what do you think their record's going to be?
I say 11-5 this year. I'm a believer in the Eagles.
Whoa. The dream team, part 2, I guess.
I mean, 11-5 isn't any dream season, but
where'd they go last year?
7-9.
Yeah, that's a pretty big jump. I have them at 8-8. I think they get another game in there, but I don't think their defense is going to hang at their offense. I think the defense is going to get thrown all over the place. And I think Wentz is still going to be he's still only a second-year guy. He's not going to turn into Tom Brady. I think it's going to take some time, but the Eagles will be a step in the right direction, but 8-8.
I have them at 7-9. I do not see everything falling into place this year. Their defense is worse than what the stats give them just from the eye test. Offense will improve, but defense I do not like.
I don't see why you guys think the defense is so bad. They were 12th last year. They addressed it with the first 3 picks in the draft, especially the cornerback position, with their 2nd and 3rd round pick that you guys hate so much. And the linebackers are solid. So I don't see any reason why the defense is any worse.
You just look at who they're going to have to play. I mean, if you pull up their schedule, there are guys they're going to throw all over them. Brandon Marshall and OBJ, yeah, good luck. They might have 2 touchdowns each. And you look at Dak, he's going to throw 2 to Dez, and Zeke will run all over him. Like, you just look at who they're going to have to play. And Kirk Cousins will throw all over him. Terrell Pryor, Jordan Reed, and Jamison Crowder. Like, their cornerbacks aren't good enough to stop anybody in their division, much less other teams they're going to have to play.
The Eagles, like last year, they were in the top half, and they still played all of those teams.
No, they didn't. They did not play the other teams they have now besides they have the division again. Their NFC East has one of the toughest schedules this year.
I'm just saying, top half last year, I think they got better, and they'll be able to sustain. The offense is definitely going to be better with Carson Wentz, Torrey Smith.
They didn't get 4 games better though.
Yeah, I do not see that.
4 games in a 16-game season.
Yeah,
That's a divisional round. That's a bye type record. Like obviously because you have the Cowboys 11-5 and the Giants, but like in a normal playoff, like that's them getting a bye in the playoffs. There's no way they go from out of the playoffs to being a team that deserves a bye at 11-5. Like that's
bye in the playoff at 11-5. I see them making the wild card.
so who doesn't? You have 3 teams in the NFC East. No one else makes a wild card.
No, I see 3 teams in the NFC East making the playoffs.
So then who's the other? So either the Seahawks or the Cardinals don't get in.
Yeah.
Which one?
Cardinals. I'm not huge on the Cardinals this year.
All right. I can't see how you can justify the Eagles over the Cardinals.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have probably the same amount of offense, and their defense.
But the
defense
Cardinals
is top 5 defense. Their
Yeah.
defense is unreal.
No, top 5 defense for the Cardinals.
Yes, better coaching could call him that. Yeah, I mean, yes. Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu lock up that secondary. Teams will not throw all over them.
That's 2 players. The Eagles
That's
have
a safety and a cornerback. Name me a safety and a cornerback that's good. Yeah, like there's not
Malcolm
one.
Jenkins.
Oh yeah, he's really young.
So he's still good.
He's not Tyrann Mathieu and Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson's the top 5 cornerback. Tyrann Mathieu's the top 4 safety.
Yes, but the Cardinals don't have a front 7. You cannot say they're a top 5 defense.
I think most people would not think that's out of the question. Yeah.
No way.
Fans with me.
Top 10.
Top 10 at worst.
Maybe top 10. That is way too high for the Cardinals defense. And you
And
say
the best running back in football. There's no best on the Eagles. And Larry Fitzgerald, who has proven and he will get 1,000 yards again. And Carson Palmer, who I think will be better than he was last year. Not great, but better. And like their offense is, if not better, average. Like they're both equal.
I mean,
and then defensive, there's not a debate that the Eagles defense is close to the Cardinals. No,
Yeah.
Eagles defense is not touching the Cardinals defense.
I mean, and you talk about big jumps. The Cardinals finished 7-8
What did they do
and
the year
1 last
before?
year.
What did they do the year before? They were in the conference championship. It's one down year instead, just like the Panthers. They're in the Super Bowl the year before. Like those aren't big jumps because they've done it before. It's just a down year.
Okay, but I mean, the Colts went from the number 1 pick to the playoffs a couple years ago when Andrew Luck got
Yeah,
drafted.
They got Andrew Luck.
I mean-
Derek
They didn't have
Barnett.
a quarterback.
Yeah, a quarterback's a lot different. Oh, we got the defense now, the 13th pick. Oh, we're going to the playoffs now.
I mean, the Panthers, the huge jump. They had Cam Newton the year before, and they went 15-1 the year after, finishing mediocre.
Okay.
Why
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
Why can't that happen with the Eagles next year?
I mean, I guess you can predict them to go 15-1 if you want.
I don't see them going
I don't see-
15-1.
I just don't see.
I mean, you're
you
saying
look at
like
the Panthers
4
team.
more games is the.
But I don't see so many improvements.
There's no improvement besides the offense, and it's not even that good.
No
It's-
improvement. They spent their first 3 picks on defense.
Young guys are not going to come in and be stars.
I'm not saying they'll be stars.
They'll
I'm
be
saying a
okay.
solid
Cowboys
defense.
did a lot in the draft in their secondary. And
Yeah, they got
that's not
4
gonna be
corners
used.
in safety. They're not going to be stars either. Like the young guys take time. I think people in general get very. They have to be good the first year. They're gonna be a bust. Like it takes time for players to get good. The Eagles are not gonna have Derek Barnett go get 21.5 sacks like he did in college. Like he's gonna get 5 maybe. Like it takes time.
I did not say Derek Barnett's going to break the sack record. I said the Eagles' defense will be in the top half, and the offense got a lot better.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I don't think that the offense got good enough to move them from 7-9 to 11-5.
Yeah.
I agree that they will be in the top half and that their offense got better. No disagreement there. I do disagree that they will go 4 wins better. Their defense didn't get any better. I think they're the same as they were last year.
And that was the 12th defense in the league, plus a good
And they
offense.
went 7-9.
Yeah, because
Their
Carson
offense
Wentz
does
is
not
a
improve
rookie.
4 games. Is what I'm saying. Their offense does not improve 4 games. And Dan, you're in
Alright.
agreement?
Right.
Yeah,
Schedule stuff too.
exactly. They don't get 4 games.
All right, let's talk about the Redskins now. Kirk Cousins, a big contract distraction in the offseason. Will that become a problem in the season?
Not to him. Cousins is used to playing like this. He did it last year. He prepared all offseason this year. He's probably more annoyed last year when he didn't get a long-term deal. This year, I think he knew it was coming. He did it last year. No worries for Cousins.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. Maybe it'll motivate him a little bit to get more money, but
Mm-hmm.
the media could put some players, you put it into heads or something. But
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna be anything like earth shattering.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do anything to his play. Maybe at the end of the year, he'll try to throw the ball a little more to get some more stats, to get some extra money in the offseason. But really, besides that, I don't think it's going to be a kind of team distraction, really bad locker room issue kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be any issue with the team. I think it was more of just will it affect Cousins' play? I don't think it will because he did it last year.
All right, so Terrell Pryor coming over this offseason for the Redskins. A huge addition. He might be the number one wide receiver this year for the Redskins. What does he need to do this season in order for the Redskins to uh, make a push to the playoffs?
He's obviously the number one receiver. The Redskins love to pass it. So he has to make up for Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garcon, and Doxson has to step up. In order for the Redskins to be successful, I think, which was your question, I think Pryor has to be a top receiver. He has to be top 5 in yards and top 10 in touchdowns. And that's the only way I see them being successful. I have them at 9-7, but I don't think that's successful to the Redskins. I think that's not playoffs. That's a mid-teens pick, and I think that's success to the Redskins. I think he has to finish top 5 in touchdowns, top 10 in yards top 5 in yards, top 10 touchdowns in order for Terrell Pryor and the Redskins to make the playoffs and be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't think if Pryor has a breakout season, it will make the Redskins contenders for the division. But to make them better than he will do, or excuse me, to make them better, I mean, he would have to get like 12 to 1,300 yards probably because in Cleveland he had 1,000 yards receiving and obviously didn't make them.
That's a different situation. I get what you're saying, for sure. I agree with you on that. I think you are 100% right that he has to have close to 1,400 yards if it's going to be success.
Yeah, the number one target in a pass-heavy offense. The defense will not be good, so he's going to have to make up for a lot of the production. This passing attack has got to be flawless for the Redskins to make a playoff push this year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like I said, 9-7, I think, is optimistically hoping that Cousins balls out. So that's what I have him at. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the defense, lots of pieces. But I mean, there's one star, maybe two if you want to count Ryan Kerrigan. But Josh Norman, headlines after headlines after headlines. Do you guys think he's elite? And is this Redskins defense going to improve? They were 28th last year.
I'd say he's a top 5 to 10 corner in the league. That isn't bad, but I don't know if that's really elite. If you call it that, he draws way too many flags and didn't shadow some of the best receivers last year. Defense was 28th in yards allowed, and they're going to be tough to judge this year with the new defensive coordinator and Joe Barry. Joe Barry gone. Promising rookies in Jonathan Allen and Ryan Anderson.
Yeah, I like Jonathan Allen, like Ryan Anderson. I think the defense is going to improve. I like Sua Cravens as well as a perfect, versatile hybrid type player for the Redskins. But when you go to Josh Norman, I don't think he's elite. His skills aren't conducive enough to playing the role of a cornerback one in every system. I don't think he has the speed or athleticism to thrive in a scheme that prominently features man coverage. If you watch the Redskins, they're most of the time in man coverage. They could switch it up with new defensive coordinator, like you mentioned, but I don't think he's elite. Like you said, I think he's top 10 and top 5 for me is too high. I like top 10. I don't think he's elite.
I think he is. Since 2014, passers have had a 61.0 passer rating against him. That's second behind Richard Sherman. And he covers some of the best offenses and best receivers in the NFC East, so the stats might not be perfect this year, especially if he's taking on the number one guys, but he's still a very good cornerback in the NFL.
But like I said, he didn't shadow some of the best corners in the league, so that stat kind of...
I'm saying that this year he's going to go more against...
Why would that change this year, though?
The new defensive coordinator.
Did he say that or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. But, yeah, I think... I don't count Norman as elite. I could think of 9 guys better than him, I think. Probably around that number at least 5. I don't think he's top 5. But in there... I don't think he's elite, but I think he's a good, solid cornerback. I think he should be a cornerback, too. Like I said, I don't think his skills are as conducive enough. I don't think he's quick or athletic enough to hang with the wide receiver ones in the league.
I see. I mean, if they can find a scheme to really build and work around him like they did in Carolina, where he gets one side of the field and covers whoever's there, kind of like Richard Sherman, both of those guys, if they can get their side of the field and really zone and cover that like they're supposed to do. That he's an amazing cornerback. But let's give some predictions for the Redskins this year. What do you think they'll finish?
Like I said, I think I have a 9-7. I think it's a little optimistic. Their schedule's not too tough, but I like them at 9-7. I think they could go down to 7-9 at the lowest. I don't think they go under one game under 500. 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, right around there.
I have them at 7-9. Both sides of the ball are kind of rebuilding, so with so many questions, I do not see them getting to 500.
Yeah, I say 6-10. A very tough division, tough schedule. I don't see any reason that the Redskins should be contending for a playoff spot this year. One new big target, 2 big losses for Kirk Cousins. The running back position isn't great. The offensive line is bad. The defense, I think, will be a little bit better, but not top 20 even. Not really enough to win them enough games to compete for a playoff position. I say 6-10.
Yeah, the only reason I had them at 9-7 is because their schedule's not too bad, so I think they can pull out a few games.
Schedule's bad?
No, if you look at it, I mean, they have the Seahawks and the Cardinals, but besides that, there's nothing really too tough on there. They play the AFC West, so the Raiders, but then they got the Chiefs, the Broncos, and Chargers. I think they win all 3 of those. Like, I just don't see their schedules as tough as other teams in their division. And I think every team in the division finishes with at least 8-8. I think all 4 teams are not rebuilding enough. I think they're all in the top half of the top 2/3 of the league.
I mean, you talked about the AFC West. They play them. I think they're worse than the Chiefs too. Maybe even the Chargers and Broncos. I could see them losing all 4 of those.
I see them going 3-1 in the AFC West.
Plus, this division that they play in is very tough too. 3 road games at Philly, Dallas, and New York.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning any of those.
I have them getting swept by the Cowboys and then splitting with the Giants and Eagles.
All right, so I think that's all we got for the NFC East. Jason, what's coming up on the sports sermon?
Coming up, we're going to start getting into college football and NFL as the season gets up and started away. School's starting for us, though, so it's going to be slower. I think it's going to be once a week from now on as school gets going. But, stay tuned for NFL and college football stuff.
Yeah, we'll have some weekly podcasts for you once football season gets underway. Just recapping the week that happened and talking about some good old football. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you soon with more podcasts.